I'll talk. Microphone is fine. Testing, testing. Can you hear me? Testing, testing. Okay. No, the only thing I hear now, yeah, I'm getting it. I hear the music and I hear myself. Test, test, test. Okay. Okay.
Huntsville for graduate school. Joel is a high school administrator, educator, adjunct doctoral professor, and owner of JCB Educational Services. Dee Dee is a training specialist and instructional designer for a government agency and owner of Hue Shade Designs. If you have not tried her earrings, I have a few pair. They are very nice, very chic, very classy. They are proud parents of Chris, age 12, and Olivia, also known as Livy, age 4.
My girl.
Put your hands together for Joel and Dee Dee.
Yes.
Yay.
Joe
That's
said,
right.
yay.
Oh, Angela just said no sound.
There we go. We got it.
Okay, she said she hears us now. She
Okay.
hears us.
We'll
Let me
go
tell
right
you,
on.
Angela, shout out to Angela Ruffin. She's
Yeah.
been here with us the past few weeks.
She's a trooper, for real.
She's been holding it down with
She
us.
is a trooper, and I don't
She's
know
interactive.
why I
She's
can't get
engaged.
Joe. There we go. Get Joe them on the
All right.
show. What's going on, guys?
This is what
Hey.
I'm doing right here.
I can see. Okay.
It's a delay on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we
Why
ready to rock and roll?
is that showing that?
Okay, that's what we
There we
need.
go.
There we go.
That's better.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna squeeze in here too so we can.
So, guys, how are you all
Yeah,
doing
we had to
today?
get close for ours.
We're doing good.
Look, Joe representing Sprite. I appreciate that.
Hey, what can I say? I try to
And
find
Dee Dee
something
got the My
light.
Black is Beautiful. What's that?
I try to find something light, a light colored shirt to brighten it up for you.
Okay, okay.
Yes.
We'll
And
see.
Dee Dee repping the My Black is Beautiful. Yes.
She throwing my black is
Black
beautiful.
girls rock.
Guys, look, we really do appreciate you guys joining us today. What we try to do is, of course, we have a lot of different relationship experts, but then we want couples, especially couples who've been together for a long time, to help us cover a lot of the relationship situations that we endure. You all have been married for 16 years. My
Yeah, in
goodness.
July, 16 years.
Yeah, that is amazing, man, and you all look so young. I guess that's why it's so amazing to me. It's like, man, I didn't know that. I was like,
Yeah.
well, I knew Chris was 12, so I said at least 12.
Right.
But
At least.
16, right? I'm like, wow.
We got
That's
married
yeah.
at 24, at the age of 24. So young, very young.
Wow,
Yeah.
that is impressive. That
This
is
is true.
impressive. As Rachel said in the introduction, we're going to be covering our relationship principle number 8, which is forgive each other quickly. And we know that in relationships, whether it's intentional or not, we end up doing or saying something that hurts our significant other. And now we're not talking about, and I like to put, these parameters on the type of hurt that we're referring to. I'm not talking about, infidelity, those things that were just way left field. I'm talking about just basic day-to-day
Day in,
interactions.
day out things.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
One of the things I've learned in this ministry, men and women, we're just different.
Mm-hmm.
The way we see things,
Yes.
how we feel about things.
Very
And
different.
and there are some times, Rachel be, she'll feel a certain way about something, and I don't share those emotions or those feelings for that particular thing, and I'll see it in her body language that my response obviously wasn't the right response, and I'm like, oh crap, I guess
I had to look at him like that, y'all, because I thought he was about to throw me under the bus.
Rachel.
That can happen. Let me
He was
just-
on his way. He was on his way.
Joe said he was on his way. Because at any given time, if you get to know him, he'll sound like he's being like real, like professional and serious, and then he'll just quickly throw me right under the bus.
Gotta love it.
That's
I
love
had
for
to
you.
put that out there. Be
Right.
ready for that at any given
Sweetheart,
time.
I promise you,
Ooh, I got the sweetheart.
there will be no throwing you under the bus today.
You'll just be placing me under there.
Right.
Laying you out there.
Right.
Gently placing me under the bus.
I will not throw you
You
under there, I
know,
promise.
But you're not going nowhere because we're quarantined together. So.
Exactly. But yeah, back to what I was saying though. We are different, and we sometimes unintentionally say or do some things that hurts our significant other. And unfortunately, everybody doesn't know how to let it go.
Let it go.
Some people hold on to it too long, and it really, really hurts the relationship.
Definitely.
People are struggling with things that happened 5 years ago, and it's like, wow, I mean, you're just gonna let this thing control the rest of your marriage, you know?
Right.
And so today we just wanted to have a conversation with you all about letting it go, you know, and what is forgiving. And before we get started, you know, I do want to, we love to make sure that we're using biblical principles when we're talking about these different relationship topics. And the Bible verse that we're going to use today as our foundation is going to be Luke 17, the third and fourth verse. It says, "Pay attention to yourselves. If your brother sins, rebuke him. And if he repents, forgive him. And if he sins against you 7 times in the day, and then turns to you 7 times saying, I repent, you must forgive him."
That's deep.
But here's the key point. And I don't want us to take lightly the word repent. Repent is not just saying I'm sorry. Because if we look up biblically, repent, it is you have a sorrowful heart. You know what I'm saying? It is not just some haphazard thing, you know, you say out there. So if that person genuinely is repenting, it is saying that we have to
And let's
forgive
go deeper.
them.
Let's go deeper than that. As you look at this text, based on what you just said, if somebody, first of all, we don't even believe that somebody's genuinely repenting.
When they do it 7 times in the same day.
No, nobody believes that.
Yeah,
No.
I'm like,
After a while, you're just like,
You're like, right.
this is BS. Like, what are you doing here? Stop playing games.
right,
And
right.
to think that like 7 times, and then it says not you should, you can. It says you must
Right.
forgive him. That's Christianity on a whole nother level.
Yeah.
Yes.
It pushes all of us outside of our comfort zones, you know. And so, you know, in 16 years of marriage, you know, and I'm not trying to throw you all under the bus. I know.
Just to place us there.
Yeah, I'm just going to gently place you there. I know at some point y'all had to have a couple of conversations like, look here, what's going on, you know? And I don't think, you know, for me, I don't know how you last 16 years without getting over some things. You know what I mean? So if we
Picking your battles, and
right,
letting
all of
things
those
go.
things. So you know,
Yeah.
I mean, just to get into this subject, you know,
What is forgiveness? Yeah.
you know, yeah, we do ask that question, like, what is forgiveness in your opinion? What, you know, and we want both of you all to answer it separately so we can get both versions of the question. What for
Yeah,
you
you
all?
go
What
first.
is forgiveness?
He wants me to go first so he can Mac 10.
No, I wouldn't even do that.
He gonna throw those adjunct skills out there on you.
Yeah. I'm deferring to
Like, to me, it's the ability to move past either traumatic event, large or small, or something that had an impact on you, the ability to move past it and still flourish in your relationship. It's challenging because I think a lot of people find difficulty in forgiving when it challenges their belief system, and not necessarily Christian belief system, but just what you believe is right and wrong. When
Right.
somebody challenges what that is, it makes it difficult to forgive. And we often think that forgiveness and forgetting go tandem, and I don't think that often happens. I think sometimes forgiving comes first and forgetting may come later.
Right.
It's definitely a piece of maturity that's attached to all of that.
Oh man, she
That was
just,
powerful.
yeah, that was powerful. Okay, Joel, I mean, you got to follow that one up there, but
No, I don't
happens
think
when
that's
you
what
let
you
somebody
do
else go
for
first.
letting her go
I have to
first.
go first. I think that forgiveness is it's a gift to the other person, that you're actually willing to say, I'm willing to move past this. I'm willing to give you another opportunity. I realize that you might revisit the same place where I could be offended again, but I'm willing to, because you matter that much to me, to let it go, to pick my battles. When we disagree, it's usually I might be trying to be right, or she wants to try to be right. But at some point, you know, you're going to have to let it go. I might not win this argument.
Right.
I always tell her sometimes winning is losing for me. Like,
Exactly.
when I win, I lose. So it's not really. So it's worth it to me to say, you know what, I forgive you. I want to let this go because I would like to be happy. You know, when we work, as Benjamin said, we work in a stressful environment in school, and so I don't want to bring that same energy home and fight at home when I can deal with those kind of battles at work. It's much easier for me to let it go and to forgive, and also to develop a tolerance where sometimes things that might have bothered me are not bothering me as much anymore. So it's not something I need to forgive for. I kind of let it go. That's not really a big issue to me anymore.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Man, I mean,
They just said a whole lot.
Listen.
Lot to unpack.
oh
there.
my goodness, I'm sitting here like, man, both of them said some very, very powerful things. And Joe, I mean, since you were last, I'm going to piggyback off of something you said. You said, and learning to build a tolerance. Because the reality is there's some things about our spouses and about us that are not going to change.
Right.
So
Right.
it's like, oh, okay, I need to figure out how to live with this.
Right. I can give you a good example. Like, I put my clothes on the ottoman. I do it regularly, and my wife hates it, but it's probably not going to change. I might try to minimize the amount of clothes that I put there, but that's probably not going to change. But I had to, when my wife would get upset with me about it, it wasn't necessarily I have to forgive her for being upset. I understand that is not how she wants the house to run.
Right.
But I had to she's built up, I think, a little bit of a tolerance. I do mean little, to allow me some leeway, a little flex room in there, because that's just who I am.
And I can tell you, I can give you a why behind that. Like I mentioned earlier about how our belief system or maybe our experiences may impact how we respond to things. Just in the spirit of transparency, my dad was a little bit of a hoarder. So lack of cleanliness or junkiness, it disturbs me.
Right.
So he knows that if he knows that that's a trigger for me, then maybe I should try to pick up my socks off the floor. So I think understanding the why behind people may find it difficult to forgive or they may harp on certain issues is important because sometimes it's attached to something that has nothing to do with them.
Gotcha. And you know what? I'm glad you said that, Dee Dee, because now with that same mindset, you have to flip it to him. Like what from his past may be the thing that has him the way that he is. And when we can do that, like you said earlier, it requires a level of maturity, then it makes us a lot more tolerant of certain things. You know what I'm saying? But when we choose to disregard the why for the other person and only focus on the why for us, it damages or it puts a strain on our relationship. So I always say, do you want to win or do you want the marriage to win?
Or do you want to be right or do you want to be happy?
Right. Well,
that's another one too.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because sometimes you just want it to be what you think is right. And then there are certain decisions that you have to make that just allow for peace in the situation. And I thought it was funny when Joel said, I have to forgive her, or in his mind, like kind of give her a pass because he understands. But she also has to give him, like she has to measure what level of forgiveness she's going to give him. Because like, this is connected to some past stuff.
Right.
But yet you keep putting it on that ottoman.
Right. So, and I mean, the connection to the forgiveness principle from the example I gave was that it has caused a lot of arguments. Right. Like, I don't know if I can live with you. Like, this is disgusting. It's not even, to me, necessarily disgusting, but it's a pet peeve of hers that's connected to something else that I had to get better about picking my stuff up, and she had to. I think she's improved about how she responds to me because my wife is very kind, very nice, but I can push her buttons in ways that you can't push.
Right.
So her response to me would be different than somebody else. So we have to learn, and I think, and maybe now that we're 40, and we're kind of like, well, you're not going anywhere, and I'm not going anywhere, so let's figure this out. We have to figure out a better way to communicate with each other. But there have been times, especially earlier on in our marriage when we were younger, that those arguments could escalate.
Right.
And everybody goes to their own corner, and it may not be we're yelling and cursing at each other, but we're not speaking. Right. I'm holding on to what I feel, you know what you feel. I'm mad at you, you're mad at me, and one of us has to decide to come out the corner and talk.
Right. And I think that is very powerful what you guys are saying, because the definitions, there are two different definitions of forgive that that Rachel and I like. And the one is up on the screen. It says to grant pardon for or remission of an offense, debt, etc., to absolve. And a lot of times that's the one that most people think of. But my favorite definition for forgive is this one: stop feeling angry or resentful toward someone for an offense, flaw, or mistake. And notice the terms that it says offense, flaw, or mistake. And so, Joe, even with the analogy that you used, when you consciously know that leaving a bunch of stuff on that ottoman is going to trigger her, now you going, okay, I don't want to trigger my wife, so I'm not going to leave that much stuff on the ottoman.
Just a little bit.
Now she knows he's going to leave something on that ottoman. So now she tells herself, I'm not going to go left because he left 1 or 2 articles on the ottoman. Now if you leave a pile of clothes on the ottoman, it's almost like you have to say to yourself, I worked for that one. I already knew that was coming. You know what I mean? And so sometimes when we're fair to when we're truthful to ourselves, like, I know I'm violating something she has expressed to me.
Right.
And I violated it. I can't take offense when she get offended. And it's almost like, you know what, babe, my bad.
Yeah.
And there's something deep here where it says stop feeling angry or resentful. It has to do with something Dee Dee said at the beginning about people always say forgive and forget.
Yeah, that's
and you can forgive, but I think they're forgetting, and I'm just gonna put a little science in this. It's really hard to just say you didn't remember it happened. She's gonna remember that he's putting those clothes on the ottoman.
Right.
And for those of you that are listening, this is for anything. Just insert whatever it is the issue. I think what's important is that whole word feeling. Does it trigger something? Do you have a visceral reaction, or are there emotions that are triggered as a result of what someone has done to you? And as long as that is still there, I don't believe the forgiveness has taken place. And when I say that, I mean, it doesn't mean that you're not trying, but I think that forgetting has to do with it doesn't take me to that point anymore because I truly have let it go.
Right.
Now with this ottoman situation, if he, like he said, he's found his space of
right.
how much he can let on there. But let's say there's been trust that's been broken in a relationship. And I'm saying to you, baby, I'm gonna trust you. We're gonna work on our trust. We're gonna build it. And I forgive you for everything that you've done. The forgetting doesn't mean that I have forgotten what you did to me.
Right.
It just means that I truly have canceled that debt. I am letting it go so that as we continue on, I'm not having the same visceral reaction to the trust that was broken between us.
Right.
And
That's
that's
what's deep.
really a maturity piece. I mean, it takes time to get to that space. If you're one of those people that can do that immediately, God bless you. You're an awesome human being. But that's something that has to be sharpened in a human being. I don't think you're knowing how to forgive that way, or really having a true, authentic understanding of what it takes to forgive somebody of misdeeds, large or small. It definitely takes time.
That's a discipline too.
Yeah.
It's a discipline because the word that was used earlier was trigger. Sometimes people can do stuff that'll take you right back to that exact moment of your initial trauma with that person, right? And it takes discipline for you to say, I'm not at that moment anymore. So I'm not going to respond the way that I responded when that initially happened, nor am I going to allow myself to feel the emotions that I felt when that initially happened. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That's a discipline. And I think sometimes we tend to give ourselves outs for not being mature or disciplined.
Like we have the right to.
Right. And no offense to you or anyone else, and this is including me, because I have triggers, right? But when are they gonna stop being triggers?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? At some point I have to say to myself, okay, this is not the same situation. And even if it is, I'm gonna choose not to feel the way I felt when it first happened. Because it really is a choice.
Yeah, I think that's a perfect segue to something that Hillis Jeffries said I don't know if you want to put his comment up.
Which one is that?
Hillis
We have
Jeffries,
to
he says
stop.
we have to stop
Oh, yeah.
focusing only on what triggers us or our selfishness. How can we help each other?
Mm-hmm.
And so basically, it sounds like he's saying your perspective has to change
Mm-hmm.
as to what you choose to continue to focus on.
Right. And that is the discipline. Remember, because that's pretty much what I articulated. I have to choose now to not allow that to continue to be a trigger.
Right.
You know, and I think that is difficult for a lot of us. A lot of us struggle with that challenge, you know, like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna do that. And in transparency, it's not easy to forgive or forget an offense that is ongoing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of times, especially us as Christians, you know, what would Jesus do? I don't know.
I don't.
I don't know what Jesus would do. Don't be sitting here.
Let me know when you
Because
find out.
the same Jesus y'all talking about, after a while, he got tired of them folks in there selling them doves and stuff in that temple. And he started flipping it and whipping people. Okay, so now what? You know, at some point, people get tired, you know.
Right.
But I think the gist of what we're saying is we got to get to a point where we just stop allowing it to just take over.
And,
Yeah.
and let me interject here, and this is Carla is kind of piggybacking off of something that
Carla Webb.
said. Carla's my sister.
Yo,
What's up,
sister Carla.
Yeah, she said it's hard for a lot of people. Dee said it's hard for a lot of people to just forgive, and Carla says more of healing than discipline, because you can cognitively know what you need to do, but emotionally, you have to heal in order to even get to the point where you can truly say, I have forgiven and I choose to forget what that did to me. Like, I want to move on from this.
No,
I totally
the healing comes from the discipline.
Right.
I really do believe that. For instance, and we'll use something totally off topic, exercise, right? You can say in your head cognitively, I need to lose weight. But until you start doing something, your body is not going to change. It's going to remain the same. So
Yeah.
we have to have a discipline to say, I'm going to put into motion the thing I say I want to get from whatever scenario it is I'm dealing with. So if I'm saying I want to forgive, I am going to put in motion the act of forgiving. I'm going to choose not to be.
exercise it.
I'm not going to be angry. I'm not going to respond the way that I used to respond. Now that brings about the healing. Healing ain't gonna just come just because I'm gonna heal. Oh, okay,
Right,
well, let's see how that work.
Right.
You know, and because the moment another stressful moment comes, you gonna respond again the same way.
And that goes back to like addressing your triggers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I also think we have to consider, we talk about collaboration in the workplace.
Uh-oh.
You know, everybody comes to the table to address a problem, an issue, or put a plan in place. I think we can't negate those practices that we practice in business and bring them into our marriage. If we really want forgiveness on something, don't let your spouse go it alone. Support them in helping get to that forgiveness and what it looks like. If that means you changing your behaviors, if that means you acknowledging your wrongs, if that means whatever, help your partner get to a place where they can forgive and make sure that that behavioral change is sustained. So that's another important piece.
And that goes right back to what Hill has said too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Helping, you know, we got to get to that point where we can figure out how can we help each other.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That is powerful.
Mm.
Man, we messed around and got two
heavy hitters up
What?
in here. Well, you know, they know what they're talking about. Hillis says, what is more important, the earthly culture or the heavenly culture?
Mm-hmm.
Our mindset is what is the challenge we face when it comes to forgiving each other.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just go and say it. I was trying to wait to say it, but maybe I should ask it. Who is healing? Who is forgiveness about?
Oh, wow.
Who is it for?
Right.
Who is forgiveness for? The person you are forgiving or the person doing the forgiving?
I think it's definitely for the person who's forgiving. When my wife and I have an argument, it's better for me to forgive whatever she might have offended me in our conversation, our argument with one another, because it's affecting me more than it's affecting her. If I'm in my corner and I'm pouting or I'm upset and I'm ruining my own day, I'm self quarantining in the house or by my own. It's my own choice, And ultimately, sometimes I might be upset and she's already moved on and I haven't moved on.
Right.
So that for me, forgiveness is a gift that you give the other person, but it's really for you.
Yeah,
It's really
Joe, I'm glad you said that, man.
receiving.
'Cause, ooh, I know when if Rachel has done something
Okay, watch.
to set me
The
off.
bus is
No, 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 no,
the
no.
bus is pulling up.
This is all about Jimmy. This is all about Jimmy. If I felt she's done something or said something that really bothered me, and I'm holding on to it, especially if I brought it to her and she, I ain't do that, whatever it is, and I'm sitting here like I could be mad, right? And guess what and this is just how God works with me. He's like, so how long you gonna stay angry? You know, I mean, how long you? And so there are a lot of times, even when I feel I wasn't wrong, I will go back to make things right, so the energy in the house can shift from that negative back to the positive that I claim that I want. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes in our efforts to prove our rightness and our stand our ground, we cultivate the exact energy that we claim we don't want to have.
Right.
And so as Joel said, it's for us, because I don't want my soul to be lost because I'm feeling some type of way about something she said or did.
Your fault, baby.
The bus was coming.
Yeah,
Right.
Joe, I told you she's not going under the bus today, man. She's not.
I've already been there.
This is discipline.
but I think that's why with that scripture, when it says 7 times or 70 times 7, I don't think it's a numerical number. I think what it really means is we have to have a spirit of forgiveness.
Right.
Because if we don't, it only holds us back.
It does.
In our Christian journey.
Look at your sister talking about.
What did she say?
Carla says the bus is pulling up.
She
It is
knows
not,
you.
Carla.
She knows you.
It is
But
not.
yeah, I mean, I really think that we get so caught up, and I think about those triggers. That was just a powerful thing. We get so caught up in what our triggers are and holding on to those because for some reason or another we have this false sense of security with those. But it really is about our journey and what we're willing to let go of and give as a gift, but also heal in the process.
And the truth is that trigger, that's a dysfunction.
That's something that has to be.
It is. It's a dysfunction, and we are embracing it. You know what my trigger is? Yeah. You dysfunction, you crazy. Let it go.
Don't mean you crazy, baby.
Yes, it does. Let it go. If you willing to go to
call
work,
you crazy, Dee Dee.
I'm talking about all of us. All of us have triggers.
Yeah, I know.
All of us have them.
Yeah.
But when we refuse to let it go, you know what I mean? That's dysfunctional.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we do that and we're not aware of what we're actually introducing into our homes and into our relationships. And so it's like, okay, sometimes we need to self-assess and go back and say, you know what, that was kind of crazy. I just went left over what Rachel said. Yes, it offended me, maybe because she and I have had some personal conversations concerning whatever said thing is. And for me, I'm justifying it because she knows how I feel about that and she's still doing it. That's me giving myself the okay to be dysfunctional.
Yeah,
Okay.
makes sense.
I mean, it's like, no, it's still dysfunctional, And so now it's that struggle of saying, you know what? Yes, she still did that offense. But what is my responsibility here? Because there's fault and then there's responsibility.
Right.
Like, yes, she may have been at fault of doing something she knows bothers me, but what is my responsibility in this situation? Should I still go at her? Or should I say, okay, what approach am I going to take toward this particular fault?
Yeah.
Am I now going to join her in fault? Or am I going to now say, you know what? Let me back off and take a different approach. Because again, there's some things about us and our spouses that may not change. How am I going to let that affect the rest of our lives?
Right. And
I
also to
totally
add to, go ahead,
what's
Rachel.
that? No, I was going to ask y'all another question, but go ahead.
To add to that point, I think challenges are a great way for us to learn. And like the most tragic things that can happen in your life, if you take it as a learning opportunity, which it may take you a minute to get to that space, but if you could take it as a learning opportunity to perhaps sharpen some of the things that were dull in you, or to reevaluate, like not to take the blame for what someone else's choice was, but just to look inward and say, what is the true lesson here? Can I become a better human being if I can overcome this thing? I think those things are important to try to turn them into somebody's speaking in. It's a very short person.
Let her come on in.
Come here, Jenna wants to ask you.
To identify what is the lesson that can be learned from this. And that's on both sides, you know, the offender or the offendee. Just try to find the lesson to be learned in it all.
And let me throw this out. This was a discussion we'd had in Sabbath school months ago, I think it was. And somebody was saying, suppose somebody had done something to your child, you know, and Lord knows we all go there when it comes to our children, you know, God forbid. Could you forgive them for hurting your child? And then where do you go from there? So the parallel I want to make here is in a relationship, because we're talking about forgiveness, and it's sounding like we're all about, forgive. Forgive is important. Forgiveness is for you. But just because you forgive, does that mean that there's resolution as far as everything is, you know, back on track and everything is going to be all right? So my question is, do you think a marriage or relationship can move to the next level without forgiving each other? And why or why not?
You go first this time.
Joe, you ain't learned yet, man. Letting her go first, man.
Yeah, let her go
she
first.
knocks it out the park, man.
That's okay.
I think it can, but it's like caveats to it. So I don't know if it's a straight yes or no. I think it can move, but it will be a limp. And I don't know if thriving, you'll be surviving. So
we need to get her on our team.
Yes.
So it's not like a straight yes or no to me, because you think about it, if I can forgive an act, but if the forgetting takes time for me, and I have to address my dysfunction and my triggers, it may prohibit me from getting for our relationship to thrive rather than survive. So it's almost like it's not a straight yes or no for me. What do you think?
Joe, before you answer, we have to introduce my number one niece, Livy.
She just wants to crawl behind us.
Livy, raise your head up so I can see you.
I'm so proud of her.
And she put her lip gloss too.
Listen, I'm proud of her. She made it 35 minutes, like 6:35.
Yeah, I don't know, Jimmy. Right behind me though. But I think I'll answer with you if she goes head up. I do think it could impair the relationship moving forward healthily. You know, you might be able to, like DC, you might limp forward, but there's still going to be some gaps that will continue to return. And you will have to revisit that same place because that issue has not been resolved. It's just, we put a Band-Aid on the problem that's still there. So I know that in our growth, our communication is different at 40 than it was at 24, even 35. You know, I just think that sometimes children might help you realize what's most important. And there are some things for the health of the marriage that you have to just say, you know what, this is not worth us arguing about. It's not worth us having this strife in our house because people are watching. You know, there are, and we all have experiences from our childhood, seeing how our parents did or did not deal with things. And so as you mature, you realize that maybe my parents didn't forget one another and it caused problems, that I saw things that I shouldn't have seen. So now that I'm mature and I'm older, I definitely have to think about there are some things that are worth letting them go with finality so that the people who are watching me know this is how you resolve a deep-rooted issue or even a minor issue as they get older and have their own relationships.
Exactly.
Ooh.
Exactly. That's powerful.
So I'm getting goosebumps as I'm hearing him talk, because what I'm thinking about is forgiveness does not always equal resolution within the relationship of that particular thing. but it could be resolution within yourself
Yeah.
and how you move on in that relationship.
Right.
And I mean, the most important piece to me as a parent is still that D will always say sometimes they're watching us, but they are literally watching us. So if they see that mom and dad aren't speaking to each other, they're walking around the house and they're not, they're acting like one another doesn't exist over something minor or major, that's what they're going to take into their next relationship when they get older if we don't teach them the correct coping skills and ways to be able to deal with those issues. So we have a chance to be able to break a curse that may have existed in our parents with
That's
them
right.
model the correct behavior, even if it's tough.
Man, Joe, listen, man, you guys are knocking it out of the park.
Yes, yes.
And I think honestly, especially as parents, whether you came from a quote unquote good home or a single parent home, a 2-parent home, or a dysfunctional home, when you become a parent and you really love your kids, the last thing you want them to be is dysfunctional.
Right.
Especially if you felt you grew up dysfunctional. So you don't want that to become their social norms. And you saying that is very, very pivotal to our growth process. It's like, man, if not only for my kids, I'm going to do better in this area. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't want my kids to feel this is normal. And moving here to Atlanta opened my eyes to a lot of different things that I knew it existed, but it exists on such a higher level here, a higher scale. Mental illness. There's a lot of mental illness here that exhibits certain patterns of behavior that if you didn't know mental illness was an issue, you would just think, oh, wow, they off the chain,
Yeah.
And so now what does that child learn, who's dealing with a parent or a sibling that has mental issues? And I know that's a little bit off kilter, but even in working with certain couples, there's a diagnosis that was either that's there or hadn't been made yet that has been causing certain struggles within the relationship, And so it's like, man, I love the fact that you said the kids are watching.
Right.
So I have to say, man, you know what? I may be struggling with whatever it is, whether it's mentally or emotionally or whatever the situation is. At least my kids should be a motivating factor of me wanting to be better. At minimal. But for me, honestly, I'm thinking the whole thing should be my motivation because I genuinely want Rachel to say, at the end of it all, I couldn't have had a better husband. Or I want my children to say, my dad was the best, not saying that he's perfect, not saying that she's perfect, but I want to truly be able to resolve in my heart, oh yeah, that was the best wife, I could possibly had, I could have possibly had, and mean it. You know what I'm saying? Like, some people say stuff because they think it's politically correct, but I mean, genuinely mean that when I say it, because I the kids are watching, and I want my kids to grow up and have healthy relationships.
That's right.
I want them to know how to deal with it.
You want to break the cycle of the toxic relationships. I would love to go to online here. Angela said something that's so powerful. I can forgive my husband for jacking up my credit, but I will not put him over the bills again.
Right.
So that's a perfect example of, well, she's using wisdom, but forgiveness and the resolution is, how about we just take this book from you? You're not going to do our books anymore, baby, because that's just not your gift.
Right.
You're not. We want.
That's not your ministry.
That's not your ministry, baby.
See,
let's take that from you.
Here's that dynamic that God normally throws in the mix for our growth. They know that they dysfunctional at it, but they still want to do it.
Right.
It's like,
you can't add.
Right. But I mean, that's what happens. And so the growth is not necessarily them saying, Okay, I'm gonna let you go and take over because I done
Mm.
jacked it up. The growth normally is you being able to deal with something that you know is crazy, but they won't let it go. You know, they won't give it up. You know, and so
Right.
that's the challenge in a lot of scenarios.
Listen, you've got
Mhm.
to put up what Hillis said. This is so powerful. You can learn a lot about yourself when you hold back forgiveness.
Mm,
However, your relationship is stuck in place, and ever won't one around
will
will
not
not
get
get the best of you until you are willing to forgive.
right.
So basically, what I hear you saying, Hillis, is um, lack of forgiveness retards your growth. Like you can't even move on.
Mm-hmm.
Your relationship can't move on, and
Mm-hmm.
that's in marital relationships,
Mm-hmm.
working relationships, if you do not choose to forgive. And I don't want to gloss over what you had said earlier, Dee Dee, about in the work setting. I know in in what I do and what Joel does, it's all about growth. We're so willing to nurture that. Well, you know what? They're not what they need to be. But what do we need to put in place?
See,
Professional development plan.
Yes.
Professional development.
Right. Right.
What do we need to put in place? But people, let's be honest. I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to be the first one to say it. We get in our feelings.
Mm,
We get in our feelings because of those triggers.
right.
Mhm.
And we have got to be willing to let go of those triggers
Mm,
so that we can get out of our feelings and get into God and how He's going to help us through this. Because we're not
Right.
sitting back and saying it's easy.
right. Right.
I
Right.
have a former, I'm not going to call any names, but a former boss that I've never experienced a boss like that. And there were just some things I noticed that just seemed so opposite of what education is supposed to be. And it shook me to my core because I no longer felt secure. Not secure like I think I'm going to lose my job, but just secure in like I don't trust your decisions. I don't know if you have the children's best interests at heart. And for the longest, when the person's name was said, and this is what I mean by the visceral reaction, I could literally feel myself inside tensing up.
Mhm.
I didn't even realize it was affecting me to that degree.
Mm-hmm.
So bad that I didn't even want to pray for them.
Yeah.
at least
That's
you're honest.
I
I
understand
don't
that.
listen.
That's real.
This is called relationship real talk.
Yeah, that's
I
real.
looked at Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, I need help because
Yeah.
I don't even know the words to say to pray for this person.
right.
Yeah.
Right.
And the same thing happens in marriages.
Mm-hmm.
And we hold on to it thinking that we're winning, like you said, Joel.
Joe.
But no, you're losing. And you and that heavy weight are going to sink
Mm-hmm.
until you
Yeah.
decide to just let it go and let God work that thing out. But honestly, I can tell I'm getting somewhere because I'm thinking about it now and my chest is not getting heavy.
Good. That's
It's been
growth.
it's growth.
Guys, I want you all. I'm gonna put something up. I want to put a comment up, and I want you all to read it because this is literally affirmation of what I'm experiencing with you guys being on the show. Read that for me.
So for the win.
Yes, yes. You guys have been amazing. You guys are doing amazing. Jessica, thank you so much for affirming our guests because they are amazing. They have been the input that you guys have brought to this subject has been amazing.
Yes.
It really has been, and it's been eye
Spot
opening.
on.
It's been
Spot
eye
on.
opening too because
Spot
there are a
on.
lot of times that we're just not thinking of it from certain angles, and we do want to make sure that we're um, saying hello to the people that are on. Adeline Moore Lee, what's going on, Adeline?
Hey, what's up, Chris?
Yeah, Hillis Jeffries. We attended Oakwood together. I used to, whoop him on the basketball court a lot, but now he's a pastor and stuff.
That was just a
And
bus
yeah,
throw.
yeah,
Go
just
ahead. Throw under the
I'm
bus.
sure
Go
he will
ahead.
throw some comments up in a few seconds, but yeah, um, these people have really, really brought some enriching comments to the show, and I really appreciate you guys again. But we have one more question that we definitely want to close out with because we've talked about forgiving, the benefits of forgiving and the detriment of not forgiving. So we just want you all to answer this for the viewers. What are some steps we can take on an individual level that will help us truly learn how to forgive?
Or as you think about your
I'll go
journey.
first. I'll go first.
You're gonna go first?
All right.
Okay.
All right.
And this is how I approach things with my wife. And again, a lot of this is based on maturity, because if you asked me a few years ago, 5 years ago, my response would probably not be the same. But I do think that I had to realize, first of all, what's most important. So if you mentioned it earlier, do you want to have a happy marriage or do you want to win?
Right.
My personality is I want to win everything. It doesn't matter what it is. I want to win. Like, people make fun of me about, you always at the store every morning, because I'm trying to find something. And I have to do that because my mind won't let me. I did not find the lifestyle I'm looking for.
Right.
I have to go back and have to win. But, you know, as it pertains to a marriage, oftentimes, I would say losing an argument, but saying that this is not worth it. It's not worth the argument. In order for you to be happy, for me to be happy, we're kind of getting to that good sweet spot now, because I'm learning, I speak for myself, that there are just some things that were not worth the argument. You know, I would want to get the last word. It doesn't matter how nicely I might want to get the last word, I would still get the last word. I might even do it in a seemingly respectful way, but I'm still going to get the last word because I wanted to win the argument. But I think that as I have grown and realized that I was offending her, or it may not seem to me, but I was appearing to be condescending towards her, I had to pick and choose my battles and realize that winning that argument got me nowhere. I won and lost simultaneously. Or it's a pyrrhic victory. You know, so when I win, my losses outweigh the actual win. And I realize that as I've gotten older, it's much more important for me for us to be happy, for us to be on the same page, and not to engage in those kinds of things. And forgiveness is important, because there's sometimes my wife may offend me and I would withhold communication from her. So that's how I would punish her. You make me upset, I'm not going to talk to you. I'll go into my little bat cave. I'll go into my room. I'll walk past you. I'm going to speak on a minimal basis. And I realize that's so immature, because it was extra tension in the house and I'm adding on to it. The kids can see mom and daddy aren't talking. And really at the core of it was nothing fundamental to our relationship.
Right.
It just happened to be something that we refused to resolve it or come to some kind of a level of understanding. And everybody went to their corners and things just escalated from there. So I think that's part of growth for me. And that's something that I've learned kind of in our marriage as I've now turned 50.
Well, you know, Joel, I'm glad you're doing that, because, you know, Dee Dee is just the sweetest person in the world. She's no reason.
Until you
Listen, I'm joking, because I heard her at one of our AY meetings. Her response to a certain scenario, I was like, "Oh yeah, Dee Dee, she crazy."
That was legit. That was legit.
That's a strong black woman that she's not just gonna let anybody just run over her.
Yeah, she will get in you. Dee Dee, you go ahead and answer. Then we're gonna talk about Denise's.
Okay.
So I guess for me, it would be extending grace to your partner above anything else. People deserve the opportunity to be forgiven. But I also think another piece that comes along with that is really challenging yourself to understand your mate totality. When you first meet someone and you first get married, you know them differently day one than you do at year 16. You know their good parts, you know their bad parts, you know all the parts about them. You'll continue to learn more. So I think always approaching them from a perspective of, I need to extend grace. Will it be easy? Always? Maybe not. But should I always extend grace and try to understand who they are and where they're operating from? And I know I mentioned earlier about, for me, it's very hard for me to forgive things that challenge my belief system. And not what I believe religiously, but just things that are like right, wrong for me. And sometimes when I find that forgiveness and my belief system bump heads, I'll revisit it in my mind and say, well, are my beliefs removed from being flexible? Should I be more flexible? And he may not ever do this thought process, because I'm the one that's challenged with forgiving in this house, if you haven't noticed.
Because he's trying to keep a poker face while you're saying it too. He's like,
but I often have battles in my head about, is my belief system right? Can I be more flexible and agile in my thought processes? Yeah, I probably could. Some things are a mainstay, but how can I evaluate myself to support my marriage and go for the win that, he was talking about?
Wow. Wow. You know, because one of the things Rachel and I talk about is preferences and your principles. See, sometimes we make a preference a principle, and that's why it has no legs. It
Yeah.
can't stand under pressure. You know, and I like the way that you said that. Can my beliefs be flexible, right? Because one of the things that I'm learning about principles stretch you. You know, you don't ever have to bend on a principle, but a principle always requires you. Let me rephrase that. You don't always have to violate a principle, but principles always allows you to bend. Like forgiveness, that's a principle. That's a godly principle, right? How much do you have to bend when it comes to forgiving? 70 times 7. Really? You got 2 times at best. It ain't even no strike three. I don't even play baseball no more. So like
Right.
2 times I already know it's in your heart. That's what you meant to do. But God is saying, no, you keep forgiving. You know what I mean? And then when we read the opening scripture, it says, if they are genuinely repenting, you must forgive them. I'm
Yeah.
like, what?
I really believe it's a refining of your character.
It is. It definitely
That's
is.
what it's doing.
Yeah.
And so I always think about this concept. I see a lot of people putting on there, it's not about me, it's about we. And I totally agree.
Mm-hmm.
Our counselor had told us, like, when I look at Jimmy, I should see Rachel. And Rachel, when Jimmy looks at Rachel, he should see himself. The two become one. So that means if he's hurting, I should be hurting.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. If he's the one that has done wrong, when I look at him, if I would want forgiveness, I need to give it to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so you really have to start to change your perspective because the world doesn't have that same perspective.
No.
An eye for an eye. Somebody do something to you, you do something to them.
Throw them under the bus.
Right.
Throw folks under the bus. Exactly.
And you have not been under there.
But-
Let's keep that.
I'm still healing from my wound. But I think it really is about changing your perspective about it and understanding that it's really refining you. It goes back to what we kept saying. Forgiveness is not about that other person, it's about you. And I really want to share a 4-step process that we have for forgiving. And it's really simple. Number 1, identify who you have the problem forgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So whether that's your spouse, sometimes we haven't forgiven ourselves, sometimes it's someone else. 2, determine what you feel they owe you. That's why we hold on to it. Because now, dog, you owe me. You did this, this, and this. I deserve this. You were supposed to do this. So you have to first figure out
what is it I want from this?
what is it that I want from you? What do you owe me? 3, something we really have a hard time with is cancel the debt by forgiving them. You no longer owe me. It's okay. I will no longer let this situation live in my head rent free. Because that's what, when you don't forgive, when you want to stay angry about something, it's like you're drinking the poison, but you want the other person to die. It's
That's
hurting you. Lastly, you cannot continue to let the anger build up. That goes back to those triggers. So 1, who is the person that needs forgiving? 2, what is it that they owe you? 3, make a decision to cancel the debt. And 4, don't let the anger build up again. And everything I just said to you guys is still a work in progress.
Yeah.
I'm saying it because that's something that we all need to do, but I'm not saying it's something that's easy to do.
You're right.
All right.
Yeah. Look, we want to read somebody's
Yeah.
This comment has been
Yeah, we have a lot of feedback here.
Denise Allen. She says this. I've personally learned. She said learned. I like that. I personally learned a valuable lesson in the past from forgiveness. It's the forgetting part is what I think most have a problem with. Then the triggers are set like landmines for future relationships. She hit the nail dead on the head. And as a military guy, one of the most tragic things for present day military personnel are things called IEDs. I mean, these are improvised explosive devices, right? I mean, they hide them in trash. They're buried. They may be in a car that's on the side of the road. As soon as you walk by, boom, right? And that's literally what forgiveness, a lack of forgiveness, is in our relationships. People don't even know that that thing existed. They do something, boom, you blow up, and they're like, "What in the world? Where did that come from?" But it came because throughout that individual's life or throughout our lives, because we didn't forgive, we just set landmines. And those are markers that trigger us anytime somebody does something that even resembles what hurt us in the past. And we lose it. And that
resentment
person
sets in.
Yeah.
You
And
start to
resentment over a period
resent.
of time. And you can tell a person who has a struggle forgiving. This is what it sounds like when it's a woman. Ain't no such thing as a good man. All men are dogs.
Yeah.
You need to let something go, right? Men, don't trust them. They ain't loyal. You know what I'm saying? That's those are people who have some issues, and they have not forgiven whatever has happened in their past. And so I just think that you guys have really, really shed a lot of light on this miracle act called forgiving. And I'm praying that those who are on live with us now, that you guys have gotten something out of this live. And I pray that for those who are going to watch this replay, that you guys can get something from Joel and Dee Dee. They have been amazing, guys. You all have.
Thank
And
you.
I think the highlight of the whole event was my girl Livy showing up in the background.
She made it way.
But look, guys, I know that Joel, I saw that in the bio that you have your own business, and we always want to give our guests an opportunity to promote what you're doing. Tell us what JCB Education Services is and how people can reach you if they need to solicit your services.
Okay, well, this is something I started a few years ago. Primarily, I do editing. I do a lot of consulting with people who are writing books or working on their dissertations or capstones, depending on what it is. I do workshops, but they can easily email me. It's jcbeducationalservices@gmail.com, and I have a wealth of different services that have come across my time as a teacher, as a literacy coach, as an instructional facilitator, now as an administrator. And so I have a bunch of different services that go underneath that umbrella. But it's something that I love to do outside of my normal job.
Right,
Awesome.
right.
Awesome.
And Dee Dee, you go ahead and tell us.
So for me, I'm the owner and lead designer for Few Shade Designs. A lot of people ask, what does Few Shade mean? Well, it's two different words for color. So it's color on color designs of primarily earrings, and we recently ventured into making cufflinks for men. So it's just something that came from, I always have creativity is a mainstay with me. I can't stop myself from being creative. So it's just another outlet for me. My business pages are, you can search me on Instagram or Facebook just by Few Shade Designs. And Etsy. I'm sorry.
And
This is my
internet celebrity wear your earrings?
Yes, Tabitha Brown had some on.
Love her.
Yes.
That's awesome. And you just sent her your earrings, and she.
Who is that?
Jimmy.
Let me pull the shade down here.
No, listen, that is not shade. You know I'm horrible with names.
No, I just pulled it on you. No, Tabitha Brown she's an internet celebrity. She's all about vegan and vegan eating.
Yes, the comedian.
The one who I'll sit back and just.
Okay.
But she's not a comedian, but she is.
No, she's a comedian.
She's not a fish. Like she doesn't do tours and stuff that.
No, she's a comedian.
But
she is hilarious.
But yeah, she sent her earrings.
Got you. Okay.
And didn't you say somebody told you? Just send
another one of our friends, actually, Tamara, Kevin Davis' wife. She said, it's your time, go ahead and send your stuff. And I packaged up a few items. And I said, if you like them, wear them. If you hate them, tell me. And then within like a few weeks, she wore them on one of her episodes.
And
so I was
cute. The little rainbow
excited.
Ones. I got my eye on that.
Yeah. Well, guys, look, again, we truly, truly appreciate you all.
Yes.
You all were magnificent.
Excellent.
And we are, I know for me, I go
back. I see that added strategy out there.
Yeah. You see it.
Listen, we've been doing a lot of that.
I'm surprised she didn't go whoosh, But yeah, man, I normally go back and watch the episodes because I always go back and I learn, and then of course what I'm going to edit for YouTube. But you guys were amazing. I'm not going to cut anything. I'm literally just going to add the introduction and the outro, and I'm throwing it up.
And I just appreciate your transparency
Mm-hmm.
because your transparency frees other people.
Yeah.
Like so many people walk around really in surviving.
Right.
And it's all of us are on our journey as when we get married, but to be able to, you guys have been 16 years in, and to be able to say, here's where we were, here's what we learned, and here's what we're still learning.
Right.
That's huge, and that really helps other people, believe it or not.
And you all are definitely going to help people make the transition to where you are at 16 years faster. And I think that's what our goal should be.
Exactly.
If it took me 10 years to learn it and I can give you what my experiences are and you learn it in 2, yes,
Yeah.
that's really how I feel about it, because I don't want to prolong joy.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? I don't want to prolong happiness,
That's right. That's right.
So if I can give someone else that gift, to identify what they're bringing to the table that's hurting their relationship,
Right.
and they can make that change quicker than I did, man, that's a blessing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we were put here for, was
That's
to
right.
help each other. And
Yeah.
so you guys, thank you all. 16 years in, guys, you all are amazing, because it'll be 8 for us, and
December.
yeah, no,
I'm sorry, June. I don't know why.
you talking
I
about
said
your
December.
birthday. Yeah.
Lord have mercy.
Great
I'm trying
job.
to advance us. Tell Livy we are so proud of her.
Yeah.
Okay. I will.
And tell my man Chris, I've been watching his basketball game come up too, boy. Chris
He's
is-
working. He misses the court, but he misses the
man,
court.
let me tell you something. Chris got a crossover, man. I've been watching him.
He's improved definitely a lot since we started.
Well, guys, look, we can't wait till this quarantine is over so we can see you guys at church.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really waiting on this to be over, because there's
On the
some-
next game night at your house.
yeah, because we definitely gonna have to get another game of Mafia. in.
That's what needs to be videotaped. Boy, I tell you,
I love that game.
That Mafia game was vicious.
a serious situation.
Well, guys, again, thank you
All
all
right,
so
y'all.
much.
Take
We
care.
appreciate you all. You all be good.
All
All right.
right.
Stay safe, y'all.
Was that a laugh?
No, that's me coughing again.